Hey guys, and welcome to Slasher X Games. This is going to be part 3 of the Turret AI series, and today I'm going to be showing you how we can make these little babies shoot at us, try to kill us, and it's going to be incorporating everything that I've shown in part 1 and 2, so we can have an extra room, and in this room, the turret's going to rotate towards us, it's going to detect if it can shoot, and then it's also just going to unload when it determines it can maybe get a shot on us. Okay, so here's the first room, basic turret line of sight. If you remember, there we go, it'll only turn when we're in this line of sight, it'll stop otherwise. We've got room 2, barriers. It'll only rotate if it can see us. You can see it draws a line. Uh-oh, can't see us. There we go, won't rotate. Room 3, last known position. It'll keep rotating to where it last saw us. And it'll update its position if it sees us again. Next room, highest hit chance. So basically, it'll only try and shoot us. This line will go red when it determines, see there, that if it shoots, there's the greatest chance that it'll hit us. So here we go, deadly encounter. As you can see, I've increased the radius here that it can see us. There's the turret. Basically, when we get inside this ring, it's going to be doing everything every other turret did before it, only this time it's actually going to shoot. And you'll notice that I've added a fun little animation to the gun to make it more fun to watch. So here we go, let's see what happens. Oh, it spins around really quickly. This is a very deadly turret. I'm going to come around from the other side. Here we go around here. See if it can shoot us. Spinning around. Oh, it started shooting. We got to dodge this. We would be dead by now. As you can see, it's totally hitting us. But anyway, as you can see, it's shooting only when we're within that red spot. The highest chance of it hitting us. It's tracking us quite nicely. If we escape out of this point, see, it's going to the last known position. It's going to start shooting as soon as it sees us. Check that out. Pretty cool. So yeah, you can give it an amount of ammo, so it can't obviously shoot forever. You can change the amount of time between the shot. You can speed up or slow down the animation over there. Pretty cool. And if we go to the next room, here we incorporate all 5, as we did before. Only in this case, they are of that last turret, so you can't see us here. Sees us there. Oh, he's going to shoot. See if we can escape through the middle. Nope, 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 nope. This was a bad idea. We'd be very dead at this point, all this crossfire happening. Even if we can hide behind a crate on one side, a turret on the other side of the crate will totally destroy us. So there we go. So let's jump right into the code and I'm going to show you how you can actually go about incorporating this actual shooting feature. So here we go. The only thing I've really added is these sub-images. Check that out. So I just manually cut out some of the turret and moved the front piece a little bit back as we went. And then it resets to the middle. So if we had to look at the loop, see, it looks pretty cool. Okay. And then I've actually also added some grass. Just something extra. It doesn't really do anything, obviously. So in order to add this extra feature, the actual fact that this turret can shoot us, as we can see in Object Mob Cannon 4, we have access to active as well as can shoot. So active means that it's seen us, it's going to rotate, it's going to do stuff. Can shoot means that if it had to shoot at this point in time, there's the greatest chance that it'll hit us. But now, because we're adding the extra dynamic of pauses between shots, I'm going to introduce a new variable. And this variable I'm going to call cool off. So basically, if it's active and we can shoot and cool off equals false, then it'll actually create an instance of object bullet. Then we can always set cool off to true so that it cannot shoot, have a small interval of time, and then set cool off to false, and then it can shoot again. So that's pretty much what we're going to do, and I'm going to incorporate pretty much most of the code right here into the step. There's going to be some variable declarations that we'll get through in the create, so let's jump straight into that. Also another thing here, so I've created a bullet. It's just pretty much a 27 by 5 line. If I zoom in here, you can see it's like the most basic of bullets ever. And I've set its origin as 2-2, so it's very far to the left. Okay. So let's jump into what it takes to create Mob Cannon 5. Basically, we're going to right click on Mob Cannon 4 and duplicate. Alright. Mob Cannon 5. The deadliest of all mob cannons. It's got the same sprite. It's got a lot of the same code from all the other mob cannons. You can say okay for now. Also, we've got object bullet, which does nothing here. As you can see, it's all empty. It's just an object with that bullet sprite attached. Okay, mob cannon 5. Things will need to change. Into our create, we need to introduce that new variable, as well as some other variables that will handle the amount of ammo it's got and whatnot. So, ammo equals 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, as many zeros as you want. So basically, this is as much ammo as we want this turret to have. Now obviously you can set a limit to what it is. I mean, this is just a ridiculously long number, it doesn't really matter. I just want this thing to keep shooting bullets nearly forever so that I can investigate whether the bullets are created at the right point, the speed at which the bullets are traveling, and the interval of time between each one. Those kind of things, so that we can tweak this to make sure that it appears very, very natural. Okay, so that is a lot of ammo. Next, we are going to do our len X and our len Y. Now, if you've seen my shooting bullet at the tip tutorials, you'll notice that len X and len Y are the differences between the turret's tip of the gun and its origin. Now, if this turret had a gun off here to the bottom, you can see the difference between there and there would be quite great. You'd have an X difference across, and you'd also have a Y difference. Now, we have to do these differences so that when the turret rotates, it'll always create the bullet at that exact point where we want it. Otherwise, it's always going to create it just along the origin, and it's going to look completely ridiculous. So luckily in this case, the barrel of the gun is pretty much in line with the origin, so the Y difference is going to be really small. So if we put it over there, that's what we wanted. So about 215.49, the difference between that and, let's see what it was before, is 50-50. So let's just say in this case that the Y difference is negligible. That's like 1 pixel, it doesn't really matter. And the X difference in this case would be 165 pixels. So if we go here to the create, back down to len X, is going to be 165. So it's 165 pixels to the right of the current origin. So from there to there is 165 pixels. And then the Y obviously is 0 for this. So we're just going to put a 0. We have to include it. Don't ignore it just because it's 0. It could have been -1 or +1, something really close to 0 but not 0 exactly. It depends how accurate you want to be. Then we're going to create a variable called cooloff. We're going to set this currently to false. It hasn't shot yet, so it is presumably cool already. SPD equals 1. This is going to be the speed at which that turret changes its sprite. Now, you're going to have to tweak this around depending on what your room speed is and how many frames you're getting out of this. But here, as you can see, if we set it to 30, it's going to look like that. But obviously, in-game, if I set it to 30, it's not going to look anything like that. So currently, I think I'm going to go for like a 1. And then eventually, because we're doing 30 steps a second, it's going to end up looking somewhat like that. But also, this depends on the interval between your shots. You're just going to have to tweak this, as I say. Okay, so there we've got our variables declared. Ammo, len X, len Y, cooloff, and our speed of the image. So now I'm going to jump into the step, and we're going to place some code strategically in the current structure of it, and it's going to make some stuff happen. So here we go. Line 37, if active equals true, so this is if the turret's seen us, based on things that we've coded before. If the turret's seen us, here in this case it determines best time to shoot, and then here it says we can shoot. Here it says otherwise we can't shoot, but still follow the player, just don't shoot, or don't let it shoot. So if can't shoot equals true, this is where I'm going to set that image speed. So this is the speed at which it changes the image index. I'm going to set that to SPD. So if we can shoot, then we're going to be, doing that animation. And then here, what we've also got to do is if active equals true, if active is not true, then obviously can shoot equals false. Because in this case, I've noticed that this just checks if it's within the allowable shooting angle. But also if active equals false, can shoot must also be false. And that means that we are not allowed to shoot. It doesn't matter what our cooloff is, and if we're waiting for the next shot to come out, we cannot shoot if we say we can't, just like that. And then over here, we're going to add something else, another conditional. Right over here, we're going to say if can shoot equals false, then basically we're going to assume that at this point we've been shooting. Can shoot was true. Our cooloff was going on and off as it does, and the turret was really moving it up. It was making a really fantastic animation. But now, can shoot equals false, which means the turret's got to slowly slow down that animation and get back to the rest position, because we don't want it to be pumping out lead and moving quite erratically, and then cannot shoot anymore, and then the turret very violently stops to whatever position that animation was at. So in this case, we're going to slow that down slowly until it gets to 0, and then it's going to be at like a rest state. If image speed is greater than 0, then here we're going to reduce image speed by like 0.2 every step. So it'll be very subtle. The slowing down will be very subtle per step, but we'll notice it. Then down here, the last code in this case was pointing towards, here we go, image angle and the point direction was our point of interest. Here we're going to add the shooting code, give some space. So the first few things we need to check, if can shoot equals true. So if it detects that this is the best time to shoot, we also need to make sure that we've got ammo. It's greater than 0. And then we need to also determine if our cool-off period has expired. So if cool-off equals false. I'm just going to put individual brackets around these because I want them to be evaluated individually. The nice thing about it is if any of these ones turn to false, it'll just stop evaluating the rest. So that'll save us some time. And processing power right over there, so that's cool. There we have it. We have our empty skeleton structure of this. So inside here we're going to shoot. We're going to be using the ammo. We're going to be using len X and len Y. We're going to be creating that bullet and creating an alarm to give it some intervals. So firstly, ammo minus equals 1. One less piece of ammo. You could say ammo minus minus if you want. But I'm just going to say minus equals 1 so that we get everyone involved in GameMaker different versions. They can just copy paste this code and they'll have it too and it won't have any problems. Then what we're going to do is we're going to create a temporary variable called bullet ID. It's just an ID of the bullet we're creating on the fly. So bullet ID equals instance create. Now this piece of code, as always, is quite a mouthful. So if you don't understand any of it, don't worry. Just know that what it's doing is creating that bullet, and it's taking into account our angle, it's taking into account our len X and len Y differences to put that bullet where it needs to be, no matter in what orientation our mob cannon is at. So we've got X, we say plus length direction, and then this is a function that takes len X, which also takes the turret's image angle, and then we get a minus len, see if you can bring this up, length direction Y, which takes the len Y and the image angle as arguments. Close that off. Okay, so that's the X coordinate. So you see the bottom instance create has an X, a Y, and an object. So we've done the X coordinate, so I'm going to put a comma there, and I'm going to do the next one at the bottom so we can save some space. You can see it on one screen. In this case, we're going to say Y plus length Y, and this takes in our len X, image angle. Oops, that's supposed to be a lowercase l. Plus length direction X, and this takes it our len Y, and our image angle again. And then lastly, close that off obviously. Lastly, we've got our object bullet. So as I showed you before, our object bullet doesn't have anything, doesn't have any code. We're going to be setting all its code up over here, and then it's just going to be flying ahead as we tell it. So we create the temporary variable, bullet ID. We are setting its ID to that of this instance we're creating on the fly at point X. This is point X, and this is point Y here, and that's the object we're creating. Okay, so next we're saying bullet ID. We can just copy this. Dot direction equals image angle of the turret. Oops. And then I'm going to set its image angle to that of its own direction. Just so the bullet is orientated correctly. We're going to set its speed. Let's set it to 25. That's the speed at which it travels in this direction. We're going to set cool off equals true. So we can't shoot again. We need to make sure that it resets so that we can shoot again. We can create another bullet by setting cool off to false. So we need to use an alarm to do that. So let's copy this. Let's create an add event here. We're going to say alarm 0, drag in some code. We're going to paste in this cool off equals true and set that to false. Simply, that's all we got to do. Now we're going to make sure in that step that we call that alarm 0 equals, and here you've got to determine how much time you want between each bullet. So in this case, I'm going to say room speed times 0.2. So every 20th of a second, it's going to be creating a bullet. So that's like 5 bullets per second. So we can close this off here, make sure we don't have any free space hanging around that we don't need to have. Quite honestly, that's everything that needs to happen. So in our create, we've got those extra variables: ammo, Lennox, len_y, cool off, and the speed at which this turret animates. Then in our step, we're making sure that if we can shoot, we're going to start that animation up, setting its current image speed to that of SPD, which is 1. Then we're making sure that if we're not active, obviously we're not shooting. Then if we are not shooting, we're making sure that we slowly reduce the speed of this animation until it is standing still. It's at a rest position. Then at the bottom here, we are doing all the shooting. We are checking if we can shoot, if we've got ammo and we're not cooling off. Double equals there. Then we are decreasing ammo by 1. We're creating a temporary variable called bullet ID. We're setting that temporary variable to that of an instance we're creating on the fly at the positions X and Y, which are calculated using certain functions that make sure that when the turret is rotating, the bullet is created at the correct orientation at the correct time. Then we're setting its direction to the image angle of the turret. We're setting its image angle to that of its direction. This is of the bullet, remember. We're setting the bullet speed to 25. You can change this to anything you want. A greater number will mean the bullet will travel faster. We're cooling off, means we cannot shoot. So if cool off is true, it'll go back to the if here in the next step and it'll say, uh-oh, cool off is not false, so we don't shoot. Calling this alarm 0 at, well, every 20th of a second. It jumps into there and it's going to set cool off back to false, therefore we can shoot again. So we're going to say OK, we're going to say OK, we're going to save this. I'm going to go into rooms here. I wonder if I have. I'm going to duplicate room 4. Just going to delete this turret. And we are going to place in mob cannon 5, like as in the center as we can possibly get. That's good enough. We're going to call this RM5. Okay, we're going to go into game world over here. We are going to place in instances of the deadly cannon. Just randomly around here. I don't want to make it too crazy. Give some obstacles. 4. Okay. Say alright. Save again. Now we can play. See what happens. So here we are. This is the basic turret on the side, the barriers, last in position, highest hit chance, and the deadly encounter. So as we can see, we're going to move into his space. He's going to rotate. He's going to shoot us. He's shooting. Oh, jeez. Yeah, there. My face has probably been ripped off at that distance away from it. You can't dodge it. So as you can see, you can alter the rotation speed in that create event. Obviously, this is the deadliest of all the turrets, so it's got quite an amazing rotation. And it's also incorporating all the other, features. Hey, pretty cool, huh? So that about wraps up part 3 of the Turret AI. If you have any other suggestions of other things we can add to this artificial intelligence series, hit me up, put in a comment. This actual addition was thanks to a subscriber who just said, hey, can you show us how to do that? And very, very good suggestion. So I hope you found this tutorial educational and helpful. You can find the downloadable project file straight in the description. If you have any problems, put a comment in the comment section. I can get back to you, or someone else that's just as knowledgeable following these series can help you too. If you like what you see here, as well as many of my other tutorials, you can help me support this channel by donating a few bucks through Patreon. Links also in the description as well as the banner on the screen. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. You can follow me on various social media platforms. Links are all in the description as well as the banners on your screen. Happy coding, and I'll see you guys next time for another great GameMaker tutorial.